September 2004, São Paulo. 5 men sit around a corner table inside a bar. Beers on the table. Voices kept low. To anyone looking over, they just seem like old friends catching up after a long week. They're planning a robbery. The first man is a structural engineer. He spent a decade working underground construction, subway tunnels, drainage systems, deep foundation work. He knows soil composition. He knows load-bearing pressure. He knows exactly what makes a tunnel hold, and exactly what makes one collapse on the men inside it. The second man is a former bank employee, mid-level. He knows the central bank's Fortaleza branch from the inside. Vault placement, security architecture, guard schedules, camera blind spots. The third man is a locksmith. He specializes in high-security electronic systems, the kind installed in places that are never supposed to be opened. The fourth man is a money handler. He's spent years moving huge amounts of cash across accounts and borders without leaving a footprint. Marco sits at the head of the table and lays out the one problem that has ended every bank robbery in history: time. The moment an alarm goes off. Police are 4 minutes away, maybe 6 on a quiet night. Every crew that ever walked into a bank has been racing that clock, and most of them lost. He pauses. But what if the clock never started? The engineer leans forward. Marco spreads a map across the table. He taps the central bank building, then taps a residential street 2 blocks away. The engineer studies it silently. He's calculating distances, running geology through his head. Fortaleza's sandy surface soil, the denser clay layer underneath, the water table depth. He thinks about weight, about drainage, about how long timber supports can survive under that much earth. Finally, he looks up. "It's possible," he says. "Difficult. Genuinely dangerous. But possible." The tunnel would need to stretch roughly 80 meters, at a minimum depth of 3 meters below street level, working every night in rotating shifts. They're looking at 3 to 4 months. They'd need to remove about 1 ton of soil every day, every single day, without anyone noticing. Marco nods. That's the beauty of it. They won't touch a single surface the bank is monitoring. No doors, no windows, no alarm contacts, no motion sensors. They come up through the vault floor. From underneath the entire security system, the locksmith asks about the vault door itself. 4 inches of reinforced steel, time-locked. Basically, a wall. Marco smiles. They're not touching the door. The vault floor is concrete and rebar, strong, but not armored. They'll drill through it from below. Nobody speaks for a long moment. Each man is turning it over in his head. The scale of it, the risk, the amount of money sitting inside that vault. Finally, the engineer says he's in, but they'll need at least 20 more people. Diggers, logistics, haulers, lookouts, drivers. Within 2 weeks, Marco has his crew assembled, 25 men total, each one assigned a specific role, each one promised an equal share of whatever comes out of the ground. And there's one thing nobody at that table says out loud: 25 people is a very large number of people to trust with a secret, worth $70 million. Someone, eventually, will talk. The only question is when. February 2005, Fortaleza. Marco signs a 3-month lease on a small house on Rua 25 de Março. 2 bedrooms, a garage, a front gate, completely unremarkable. The kind of house on the kind of street where nobody pays attention to anyone else. The landlord asks what the place will be used for. Marco says he's starting a landscaping business. He needs storage space for equipment and a base for his crew. The landlord counts 3 months' rent in cash, hands over the keys, and asks nothing else. The next morning, the crew moves in. They paint a company name on a sign and mount it near the gate. Grama Sintetica, professional landscaping. They fill the garage with rakes, shovels, seed bags, rolls of synthetic turf. They park a white van out front. From the street, it looks completely legitimate. Just another small business, trying to survive in a working-class neighborhood. Inside the house, They rip up the floor tiles in the back bedroom, and they start digging. The first problem shows up immediately. The soil beneath the house is much harder than the engineer originally expected. Dense, compacted clay, mixed with fractured rock. The hand tools they brought are almost useless against it. On day 1, progress is measured in centimeters. The engineer doesn't panic. He recalibrates. They need pneumatic drills, hardened digging heads, heavier equipment. Marco approves everything without hesitation. There is no version of this plan that allows rushing. A structural failure underground doesn't just mean delays. It means men buried alive. Or worse, a collapse visible from the street above. By the end of the first week, they've dug a vertical shaft 3 meters down and lined the walls with timber beams. Now, they turn horizontal. The engineer plots the route using a compass and a hand-drawn map, cross-referenced with city survey records. 78 meters, bearing northeast, straight toward the bank. They work in pairs, 4-hour shifts. 2 men stay at the front of the tunnel. One breaks the earth with a pneumatic drill. The other loads rubble into buckets and passes them back through the shaft, above ground. Another team transfers the soil into the van. The van makes runs during the small hours of the morning, dumping dirt at construction sites and empty lots across the city. Anywhere a pile of earth won't raise questions. Picture what that really looks like. 2 men lying almost flat, inside a space barely wide enough for their shoulders. The air is thin, hot, heavy with the smell of wet clay. The only light is a headlamp beam every few meters. They stop digging and install another timber frame. Planks pressed against earth walls. A crossbeam overhead, the only thing separating them from the weight of an entire city above their heads. They breathe through PVC pipes, connected to a small fan running upstairs in the bedroom. It pushes just enough air to stop a man from passing out. They do this every night for months. By late March, they've crossed 40 meters, halfway. The mood inside the house starts falling apart. The men are exhausted, in the kind of way one night of sleep can't fix. Arguments break out over shift rotations, over who's working hard and who isn't, over the pace, over the noise, over the constant fear that the thing above them might not hold together. Marco gathers the crew. He doesn't lecture them. He doesn't threaten anyone. He just reminds them what 160 million reais split 25 ways looks like. 6.5 million reais each. Every debt erased. Every problem solved. The kind of money that means you never have to work underground again, unless you choose to. The crew picks up their tools and goes back to work. April 2005. At the 55-meter mark, water finds them first. Not a burst main, a secondary pipe, old, corroded, running parallel to their tunnel line. Water starts seeping through the tunnel wall, in thin, dark streams. The packed earth beneath them turns into sliding mud. The engineer understands the problem immediately. They'll reroute, adjust the angle, add 2 more meters to the total distance, curve around the pipe. It costs them 2 days, but rupturing a water line would be catastrophic. A flood reaches the street above within hours. That means excavation crews, and that means everything is over. The reroute works. They keep moving forward. At 67 meters, the danger changes completely. The drill suddenly hits resistance. The engineer tells everyone to stop. He crawls to the front of the tunnel with a flashlight, running directly across their path, horizontal, insulated, humming softly with live current. Are underground electrical cables, municipal power lines, feeding a large part of central Fortaleza. Silence fills the tunnel. One mistake here doesn't just ruin the heist, cut the wrong cable, and half the city loses power. Within minutes, utility emergency crews would be dispatched. They trace the outage, they find the damaged line, they find the tunnel behind it, and every man in that house is arrested before sunrise. The engineer spends 3 hours inside that cramped space. Flashlight inches from the cables, completely still, identifying every line. figuring out which ones carry active load, which are backups, which can be moved safely along the tunnel wall, without breaking continuity. He speaks quietly with one other man. Nobody else says a word. Then, carefully, with bare hands, with brackets, with absolute precision, they move the cables, the lines hold. By late April, the tunnel reaches 76 meters. They stop digging. Directly ahead is the outer foundation of the Central Bank of Brazil, 4 feet of reinforced structural concrete, solid from top to bottom. Breaking through it is the most difficult technical stage of the entire operation. The engineer orders diamond core drill bits, industrial equipment, expensive, designed specifically to cut structural concrete without shattering it. They'll drill only on weekend nights when the bank is closed, when city noise above ground gives them at least some cover for the sound traveling underground in ways nobody fully expects. So they wait. Saturday, August 6th, 2005, 11 p.m. The crew gathers inside the house. No celebration, no speeches. Everyone already knows what tonight means. Marco says only 3 things. Work carefully, work quietly, no mistakes. 4 men enter the tunnel. They carry drills, cold chisels, flashlights, empty bags. They crawl the full 76 meters in silence until they reach the face of the tunnel, the point where packed earth ends, and the bank's foundation begins. The engineer marks the drill point, dead center, directly beneath the vault floor. Then he starts the drill. The sound inside the tunnel is brutal, even buried beneath meters of earth. The diamond bit grinding through concrete sounds violent, like something tearing apart. They drill for 30 minutes, then stop and listen. Nothing from above, no alarms, no voices, no footsteps. So they continue. By 2 a.m., they're 45 centimeters in. By 4 a.m., the drill breaks through. The bit suddenly punches into open air, and the engineer nearly loses balance from the release of pressure. Cool air rushes back through the opening. Air trapped inside the bank basement for days. Different temperature, different smell, the smell of somewhere else. They're through the foundation. The engineer switches to a hammer and cold chisel. He widens the opening by hand. Slowly, carefully, methodically, every piece of concrete removed is passed back through the tunnel, so nothing falls and makes noise above. By 6 a.m., the gap is finally large enough for a man to squeeze through. One man goes up. He pulls himself through the hole, rolls onto the basement floor, and lies still for a moment, trying to catch his breath. Then he stands. He's inside the Central Bank of Brazil. He slowly sweeps his headlamp around the room. Concrete walls, steel storage racks, cleaning supplies stacked in a corner, a standard utility basement, the kind of room inside every large building, and the kind nobody ever thinks about. Then he sees it, directly above him, a steel access grate. That grate is the floor of the vault. He signals down through the hole, but they still can't move. Even through the foundation, they can hear the building above coming alive. Saturday morning, the bank opens at 9. Security staff will stay on site all day. They have to wait. Through all of Saturday, through Saturday night, until the bank closes for the weekend and leaves them with a full 48 hours. Before Monday morning opening, the crew retreats back through the tunnel, back through the foundation gap, back through 76 meters of earth, to the house. Marco tells them to rest, eat, sleep if they can. Tonight, they take everything. Saturday, August 6th, 10 p.m. The Central Bank of Brazil locks its doors. The weekend security team settles into routine. Doors checked, alarm panels active, cameras running. A normal Saturday night, inside a building that has never been successfully robbed. 76 meters away, 25 men begin moving, not all at once, groups of 5, 10 minutes apart. They enter the tunnel carrying empty duffel bags, tools, headlamps, water bottles. Nobody speaks. The first team reaches the basement, pulls through the foundation gap, and finally stands upright inside the bank. The vault access grate is directly above them, bolted from below, from their side, because every security system inside this building was designed to stop someone breaking in from outside. Nobody ever planned for someone coming from underneath. They unbolt the grate, lift it carefully, set it aside without making a sound. One man climbs up into the vault. He stops moving. Floor-to-ceiling steel shelves line every wall, packed tightly with sealed cardboard boxes, every box filled with bundled cash. 100 real notes, 50 real notes, banded tightly, stacked in perfect rows, more money in one room than most people will see in an entire lifetime. He doesn't celebrate. He signals down. The others climb up. They open a box, fill a duffel bag with cash bundles, seal it, pass it back down through the grate, into the basement, into the tunnel. Then the human chain begins. 6 men stationed through the darkness, passing bags hand to hand, like a production line, back through the shaft, up into the house, where 2 men receive every bag and stack them against the walls. Then the process repeats, again and again and again. The system becomes mechanical, rhythmic. The only sounds are boots scraping concrete, duffel bags hitting the floor, an occasional quiet word moving through the chain. By midnight, 50 bags, 10 million reais. By 2 a.m., 100 bags, 20 million reais. The men rotate positions. Fresh arms replace tired ones. The tunnel is suffocating. Thin air, no light, constant pressure from the earth on every side. Nobody complains. Nobody stops. By 4 a.m., 200 bags, 40 million reais. Then suddenly, everything almost collapses. One man in the middle of the chain, somewhere in the darkest and narrowest part of the tunnel, stops passing bags. The duffel bag stays frozen in his hands. The man ahead of him turns around and shines a light backward. Something is wrong. The man's eyes look empty. He's staring at nothing. His breathing becomes fast, shallow, faster every second. The tunnel walls feel like they're closing in around him, not physically, but in the way they do when a mind finally breaks, after too many hours underground. He drops the bag, then starts scrambling backward, feet first, fast, scraping against the tunnel walls. The man behind him grabs his arm. He pulls away. His shoulder slams into a timber support beam, and the entire frame shifts. Dirt pours from the ceiling in a long, dry hiss. Everyone freezes, in complete darkness, complete silence, listening to the earth above them, deciding whether to hold. Then the engineer's voice cuts through the tunnel. Quiet, flat, completely calm. Nobody move. Don't touch the walls. Don't touch anything. Stay exactly where you are. For 30 seconds, nobody breathes. Then slowly, one instruction at a time, the engineer guides 2 men through resetting the beam, packing displaced dirt back against the frame, testing the pressure, waiting. The ceiling holds. The panicked man reaches the house and refuses to go back underground. Marco doesn't argue. 1 man gone, with 24 still working, is not a problem. The chain reforms. The bags keep moving. By 6 a.m. Sunday, 300 bags, 60 million rays. The vault is half empty, but outside, the sky is turning gray. The neighborhood is waking up. The van, making trips in daylight, is a risk nobody wants. Marco shuts the operation down for the day. They'll continue after sunset. The crew retreats to the house. Every room is unrecognizable. Bags stacked against every wall, piled across beds, stuffed into closets, covering the hallway floor. 60 million reais. Sitting inside a rented house, on a quiet street in Fortaleza. And the bank it came from still has no idea. They're only halfway done. Sunday, August 7th, 2005, 10 p.m. The crew goes back in. Something has changed. The fear from the first night is gone. Now there's something else, something sharper, more dangerous, absolute certainty. They are going to finish this. Every man knows his position. Every hand knows the weight of a full bag. The tunnel that felt like a death sentence 96 days earlier now feels like a hallway they've walked forever. Within the hour, they're back inside the vault. The shelves are exactly where they left them, half empty, waiting. They clear everything systematically, shelf by shelf, row by row, bundled riets, coin bags, foreign currency reserves that were never supposed to leave this room. By midnight, another 50 bags moved through the tunnel. By 2 a.m., another 50. The vault that once felt packed so tightly, a man could barely walk between the shelves, is now almost empty. By 3:30 a.m., the final box comes off the final shelf. One man pauses for a moment, just holding it. Then he opens the box, transfers the money into a bag, and passes it down. The chain moves one last time. At 4 a.m., the final bag reaches the house. Total, 164.8 million riets, 70 million US dollars. The men still standing in the vault say nothing. For a moment, they just stare at the empty shelves, at the bare concrete floor, at the single overhead light, shining down on a room that now contains nothing. They actually did it. 3 months underground, 96 nights digging through rock, clay, water, electrical cables, and their own fear, and somehow, completely, successfully, they did it. One man says they should leave a note, sign their work. Marco shuts it down before he can finish speaking. They leave nothing behind. They were never here. The men climb back down, through the grate, into the basement, into the tunnel. They don't seal the breach in the foundation. There's still equipment to remove, still traces of themselves to erase from the house. By 6 a.m. Monday, everything is gone. The tunnel is cleared out. The van has made its final trip. The white walls of the house on Rua 25 de Marzo are bare again. Marco stands with the crew in the early morning light. 25 men, dirty, exhausted, changed forever. He speaks slowly, clearly. Go home separately. Take different routes. Clean yourselves up before anyone sees you. Do not spend money. Do not change your routine. Do not tell anyone. Not your partner, not your friend, not your brother. Stay quiet. Wait for everything to cool down. Then we divide the money. The crew disperses into the city, 1 by 1, 2 by 2. The house falls silent. To any neighbor watching, it looks like a normal Monday morning. The landscaping van is gone. The workers moved on. Nothing unusual. And inside a vault 2 blocks away, the Central Bank of Brazil will not discover what happened for another 3 hours. Monday, August 8th, 2005, 9 a.m. The bank opens. Guards complete their morning checks. The day shift settles in. Everything appears normal. At 9 a.m., a senior manager walks to the vault for a scheduled inventory review. He opens the vault door. Then he stops, standing in the doorway, not moving, not speaking. A long moment passes. Then he runs. The next 30 minutes become controlled chaos. Emergency calls to federal authorities. The building goes into lockdown. Senior management is pulled out of meetings. Police are contacted. The vault is sealed as a crime scene. Investigators make their first pass. They find nothing. No forced entry, no damaged doors, no triggered alarms, no broken contacts, no shattered locks, no disturbed cameras. The building's security system shows a completely normal weekend. It's as if the money simply vanished. Then, a guard kneels down near the center of the vault floor. The access grate looks slightly out of place, just a few centimeters, barely noticeable, unless you're looking directly at the floor. He lifts it. Underneath, a hole in the foundation, roughly a meter across. He shines a flashlight inside. A tunnel stretches away through the earth, timber-framed, perfectly constructed, disappearing northeast into darkness. Federal police enter the tunnel. They crawl the full length of it, more than a minute inside darkness, tight walls, and the smell of damp clay. Then they emerge, through a hole in the floor of a back bedroom, inside a small 2-bedroom house, 2 blocks from the bank, empty, completely stripped clean. A painted sign leans near the front gate. Investigators search the house. Nothing. No paperwork. No tools. No personal belongings. The garage contains only a few gardening tools and rolls of synthetic grass, left behind because they were never important. Neighbors are interviewed throughout the morning. Yes, They knew the landscaping company, nice business, always busy. A white van coming and going at all hours, but that seemed normal. Early mornings, late nights, that's landscaping work. The men were polite, quiet, kept to themselves. Then one neighbor mentioned something, almost casually. The van always looked heavy when it left, loaded in the back, every night. The investigators look at each other for 3 months, in plain sight, on an ordinary residential street, in the middle of a major city. 25 men had been hauling away the excavated evidence of a tunnel under Brazil's central bank every single night, while neighbors watched and waved. The feeling that settles over the investigation isn't anger, it's something closer to awe. Whoever planned this thought of everything. They built a cover story so believable, the city's own indifference protected them. They moved 100 tons of earth through the streets of Fortaleza without triggering a single question. They planned for years, executed perfectly, and walked away clean. Now, only one question remains. Can 25 people really stay silent when each one is sitting on nearly 7 million reais and nobody is watching? History says they can't. 3 weeks after the heist, Fortaleza, a man walks into a car dealership. He moves slowly across the showroom, the way people move when they're pretending. They haven't already decided. He stops beside a Honda Civic, black, full spec, top of the range. A salesperson approaches him. They talk through the features. The man barely listens. Then he says he'll take it. The salesperson asks how he wants to pay. The man reaches into his jacket, pulls out an envelope, and places it on the desk. Cash, 45,000 reais. Crisp 100 real notes. Sequential, still carrying the tight shape of freshly banded bank bundles. The salesperson asks where the money came from. Lottery, the man says, smiling. Good week. The paperwork is processed. They shake hands. The man takes the keys and drives away. But the salesperson stays seated for a moment. Thinking about what he just saw, something felt wrong. The buyer was nervous, not excited nervous. The wrong kind of nervous. Eyes constantly checking the entrance, hands moving slightly too fast, posture too controlled, like someone carefully performing what casual behavior should look like. And the cash? Sequential 100 real notes, fresh from bundles, the kind of money that comes directly from bank reserves, not from someone's wallet or savings account. 3 weeks earlier, everyone in Fortaleza had been watching the same news story. The salesperson picks up his phone and calls the federal police. Within hours, investigators track the car. The buyer goes under surveillance. Within 3 days, that lead connects to 2 more men, neighbors, associates, members of the same crew. Police launch simultaneous raids on 3 houses. Inside each one, cash. Still wrapped in Central Bank of Brazil bands, still in sequential order. The 3 men are arrested and questioned separately. All 3 react the same way. Request a lawyer. Say nothing. Sit quietly with folded arms. And wait. Then investigators place a deal on the table. Cooperate with the investigation, provide information, and receive a much lighter sentence, or refuse, and face the full force of federal prosecution, with physical evidence already recovered. One of the 3 men thinks about it for less than an hour. Then he talks, names, roles, the structure of the operation, how the tunnel was built, how the money moved, and at the center of everything, the man who designed the plan, recruited the crew, ran the entire operation from the house on Rua 25 de Março, Marco Antonio Delgado. By September, 8 members of the crew are already in custody, but Marco is gone. Marco had been watching the news every single day. Since Monday the 8th, he watched the discovery. He watched the investigation begin. He watched the coverage grow bigger. And when the first arrests happened in September, he didn't wait to see whose name came next. He took his share of the money and left Brazil. In August, he crossed into Paraguay, carrying roughly 8 million reais, split across multiple vehicles and separate trips, nothing large enough to trigger inspections. He settled in a border city, the kind Brazilian law enforcement knows very well. A place built around money moving quietly. A place full of people who don't want to be found, where cash asks no questions, and landlords keep no records. He rents an apartment, stays inside, watches the street through a window. At first, he does everything correctly, for about 2 months. Then the real problem begins, because disappearing completely doesn't erase the people you left behind. Marco still has family in Brazil, friends, a life that existed before the tunnel, and still exists somewhere out there. And the silence inside a rented apartment in a foreign country, with nothing to do except wait and stare at money he can't safely spend, becomes its own kind of pressure. Eventually, he starts making calls, not many, not reckless ones, just enough to hear a familiar voice, just enough to feel connected to something real again. But Brazilian federal investigators are monitoring every number linked to him. The moment a call appears from an unfamiliar foreign prefix, they start triangulating. Cell tower data narrows the location. Surveillance requests go out to Paraguayan authorities. November 2005. A surveillance team spots Marco walking toward a cafe near his apartment, unhurried, relaxed, no visible awareness that anyone is watching him. He has stayed hidden long enough that he has finally started to feel safe. He never reaches the cafe. The next morning, Paraguayan police move in. Marco is arrested on the street without resistance. He doesn't run, doesn't argue. He looks at the officers, stops walking, and waits. 4 months. That's all the freedom he had. Between the vault and the handcuffs, he's extradited back to Brazil, tried on overwhelming evidence, and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. But this is where the story refuses to end cleanly. Of the 164.8 million reais taken from the vault, investigators recovered only about 8 million, Marco's share, the money he still carried when they caught him. The rest is gone. Police eventually identified and arrested 13 crew members, but 12 men were never found, never publicly identified, never tied to the operation through any evidence investigators could prove. Those 12 men quietly disappeared, with roughly 50 million reais between them. Where they went, nobody knows. Whether they're even still alive, nobody can say. And whether any of that money has ever resurfaced, there is no public record. The tunnel was sealed. The bank installed new floors. Marco Antonio Delgado served his sentence, and $50 million, dug out from beneath a Brazilian city, one shovelful at a time, is still, as far as anyone can tell, completely missing. Think about that for a second. 12 people walked away from the most audacious bank robbery in Brazilian history, and they followed Marco's instructions perfectly. Stay quiet, stay invisible, don't buy the car, don't make the call. And somehow, it worked. They vanished, as completely as if the tunnel itself had swallowed them whole. The mastermind went to prison. The careful ones disappeared. Maybe that's the real lesson of the tunnel. It was never really a story about how to rob a bank. It was a story about what happens after.